we walk through the journey with them. I used an analogy last week when talking with some folks about our business. The first thing we do is we sit beside our patients. We understand what the needs are, fairly comprehensive assessment. After getting consents and things like that, fairly comprehensive assessment. That assessment looks at both behavioral issues and any type of, kind of mental degradation, gets to understand what I would say at a high level, their chronic disease state, and then really focuses on those health-related social needs. So we get a fairly robust picture of what the individual needs are.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My name is João Camargo, and my guest here today is Brandon Oliver, who is the COO at MedZed. Brandon, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm excited to have this conversation, just as I am to every single conversation that I've had now. It's been over 100 and something guests, and every single talk, I'm like, oh, I'm still looking forward to this one. It doesn't get old. So why don't we start off with you, Brandon, just telling everyone a little bit more about MedZed, a little bit more about yourself, who you guys are, what you do, and any other context you'd like to share about the company.
Yeah, absolutely, João. MedZed, we are a high-touch, team-based care management for Medicaid members with very complex needs. We offer cost-effective, medically appropriate alternatives to traditional services, and really focus on reestablishing our patients with PCPs, reducing ED utilization, a lot of focus on housing and nutrition. But we do it really from a holistic, person-centered care delivery, and we do that in the home. So it kind of differentiates us. We're boots on the streets in the 3 states that we service, but really kind of differentiates the care that we deliver. I'm actually celebrating my first year this month with MedZed.
Oh, wow.
So 12 months at the end of the month, but really focused on transformation of the business and scale. We're about a 10-year, almost 11-year-old business that really kind of had its roots started in the in-home care delivery for sick kids that has then morphed. We have about 22% of our population are pediatric patients, the other 78 adults. So we see both sides of that.
Oh, wow. That's really, really awesome. I was just about to ask, like, what was the roots? What sparked everything in the beginning case? And you answered half of my question there. But even when looking at the founders, when they first started this thing, would you be able to tell us a little bit more about why they decided to pursue this as a company?
Yeah, so Scott Schnell, who's our CEO and one of the co-founders, really had a passion about being able to organize delivery. He had started a company that actually got bought by Home Depot that was focused on how you got contractors in the right place at the right time. So after selling that, he partnered with one of his good friends, Neil Solomon, who's a doctor in California, with this idea that we could do the same for very sick kids. The business model morphed a bit through an acquisition in 2019, which really brought us into the Medicaid care delivery space. And I was actually with a population health management company called Pop Healthcare prior. And we looked at a potential merger with MedZed just after the pandemic. So knew the business model and things like that when I got a knock on the door to come help with the transformation.
And then everything just became a little bit more smoother and coming in. It's like, I always find that bringing on new people to the business can always have its own hiccups, right? It's getting used to the flow of things and getting used to the way that the culture works, et cetera, et cetera. But if you already have that back end understanding from previous conversations, it just makes the operations, no pun intended here, very, very much more frictionless, which is pretty awesome.
And Joao, I think what we had going is we also used kind of the first 4 or 5 months of my tenure to really get focused. We divested some of our more provider-facing business so that we could focus on our navigator, kind of care management business. That focus allowed us to build, kind of a different culture. So we've been in transformation not only from a business model but from a culture as well, which has been a lot of fun.
Awesome. That's really, really cool. And talk to me a little bit more about the end user, which are the patients for you guys. Are there any common patterns that you see that these the population really faces when it comes to the issues that are mostly occurring to the people that aren't aware of services like what you guys provide. And one of the things that they really gain so much value from, they're like, oh, this is the life changing thing for me. I can't live without it now that I know that it exists, and now that I've gotten this help.
That's a great question. I'll answer that in about three ways. One, our number one patient has been unengaged with the health plan for probably a year, just out of
Mhm,
communication, not working with their PCP. So they are typically high cost and just not engaging with the system.
mhm,
Because we actively go out and do more than just telephonic intervention, I think that really differentiates us. We meet the patients where they are, and
mhm.
that's in their home. It could be a homeless shelter, it could be transitional housing, it could be substance use disorder housing. We meet them wherever they are, understand what's driving their inability to work with their PCP or manage their complex conditions. And then we drive that change. I mean, because it's really
Mhm.
change management and behavioral change that we go through.
Yeah.
But I think the second thing that differentiates us is we hire in the community for the community. So our folks know exactly, our navigators know exactly where to go to get the resources and to get them the most effectively and the most efficient. I think one of the blessings we have at MedZed is a lot of our navigators are, kind of first generation out of the system, may have had a
Mhm,
parent or a family member that was dependent on the Medicaid system. So they understand some of the trials and tribulations that go on there.
mhm.
And I think that's just really important because there's a way to have empathy for somebody's situation, and there's a way to have empathy where you exactly understand the situation because you've been there before.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and I think third and final is just our ability to really focus on a lot of the inconsistent housing needs for our patients. When we're able to do transitional rent support and things like that, it differentiates the services that we can provide. And a lot of our folks qualify for multiple programs, so we're able to
Mhm.
kind of get them engaged in multiple programs.
That's really, really awesome. Thank you for answering that in the way that you did, because then you're able to see all the different points of view and the way that it's actually tackling the issues that are happening. So that was awesome answer. And you mentioned a little bit earlier that you guys are functioning in servicing 3 states. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's true. Yeah, we a lot of our focus is with California Medicaid and the CalAIM program, where we deliver what's called enhanced care management and community supports.
Mhm.
We also have a fairly generous footprint in Maryland and in New Jersey,
Okay.
and in the process of expanding both of those relationships.
Mm.
Our work in Maryland and New Jersey has a little higher clinical interaction where we have RNs that are in the field that will often visit our patients.
Uh-huh.
We're in our California market. Our clinicians really serve as consultants for helping make sure that we're putting health action plans together that are really effective for the patient.
Awesome. Really, really cool. I would love to chat a little bit later in the conversation about the expansion and how you're looking at those things as well. But before we dive into this, I want to ask one last question when it comes to the patient and their journey throughout the process. Let's say they are looking into MedZed. They're like, okay, this is something that I really want to move forward with. What now? What actually happens? How do they go through that process of going from being a little bit, I'll call it lost, in the usual ways of doing things, to now, okay, I'll be having someone who is going to be holding my hand through the process and coming to me for this. So how does that journey, walk me through that journey, please?
Joao, you probably said what happens best as we walk through the journey with them.
Yeah.
I used an analogy last week when talking with some folks about our business. The first thing we do is we sit beside our patients. We understand what the needs are, fairly comprehensive assessment. After getting consents and things like that, fairly
Sure.
comprehensive assessment. That assessment looks at both behavioral issues and any type of, kind of mental degradation, gets to understand what I would say at a high level, their chronic disease state,
Uh-huh.
and then really focuses on those health related social needs. So we get a fairly robust picture of
Yeah.
what the individual needs are.
Uh-huh.
And then we sit and have a conversation. Wow, that we
Yeah.
sit and have that conversation, and that's what we call our health action plan. But as we sit aside, we gain their trust, number one, and I
Yeah.
would say number two, we gain they gain the knowledge of what we're going to be trying to do. So it goes from sitting beside them to walking beside them. And I think
Yeah.
that really changes how we deliver.
Mhm.
And I think trust is one of our biggest things.
Mhm.
Very difficult sometimes when you talk to folks to say, hey, the weather is the same here, the weather's not the same here. Understand the community problems. We've seen it significantly in California with the civil unrest. Our folks trust us because we're part of their
Mhm.
neighborhoods. And I
Mhm.
think that really differentiates how we deliver care. And then, Joel, it's anywhere from 8 to 12 months that we're typically on program with somebody. We're not trying to get them to a point. We're trying to get behavior change. So when we
Yeah.
see stabilization, we work with our clinical consultants to talk about graduation from the program.
That's awesome because then everything that you just described allows them to have the clarity of the path that they will be on, but also have, I guess, a certain expectation of their own. Like it's not going to be just a night and day shift.
Yeah,
It's a continuous journey of, hey, it's a continuous journey that we will be supporting you through. So that's pretty awesome to hear as well. And thank you for answering that.
well, you don't
I want to
make
shift.
bad healthcare decisions overnight, so you
Yeah.
can't make good healthcare decisions overnight either.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Fair point, fair point. And I wanted to shift the conversation a little bit more on MedZed itself and the company and how you guys are looking at growth. So, touching back on the 3 states that you guys are currently operating in, and you mentioned
Yeah,
looking to expand. When it comes to the side of business of growing and scaling and predictability,
yeah,
that's the side that is always very exciting to talk about. But also where most of the problems and challenges come through to actually
sure.
achieve those things. So, talk me through what are some of the challenges when it comes to expanding and getting to more states in the country so you can service and more people and have more impact.
Yeah, I would say a couple fold. One, they have to agree that they have a population. A health plan has to agree that they have a population that's not engaging with them, because
Right.
that's really where we serve best.
Mhm.
I would say second, there has been uneasiness in the Medicaid market, trying to understand what CMS is going to do during this Congress, and really kind of during this new administration. So
Mhm.
I think, if anything, Joel, I would say it was a pause. It's not a hard no. What I'll tell you is, we feel like, I told somebody the other day, I feel like we have a very strong running creek. I don't know what I would call it a boat yet. But
Okay.
dealing with pediatric patients and dealing with these very hard to reach adult patients, we
Right.
feel like those are less likely to lose coverage. But as we go into redetermination, every 6 months in the Medicaid world, we think we're going to be really set up well to help our team, get reauthorized into the Medicaid programs and
Yeah.
things like that. So we're looking at some of the different almost in-state benefits, Joel, that you
Mhm.
wouldn't necessarily look at our program, but because we're there, we're a constant. We understand all the paperwork. We understand work
Mhm.
requirements and those types of things. Really think that we're going to be able to help our health plan clients with
Really.
redetermination and keeping folks on the rolls.
Hmm. That's awesome. And it also goes back to trust, right? Because if you have to do that convincing of like, hey, this is something that's going to be important for your population, this is everything that we've done in the past. Here's some evidence, right? So
Yeah.
trust me through this process to help you guys as well. And you said it in the middle there, the hard to reach conversations. Do you mean by that, do you mean the actual patients themselves or the health plans in which you guys are trying to have those talks of, hey, this is something that will be beneficial to your population? So talk me through a little bit more about that as well.
Yeah, it's where we focus on our patient base. It's hard to reach patients. I don't know a health plan program that has kind of 100% participation
Yeah.
in their Medicare or Medicaid population. So really, I use that to talk about the population. I think we've got great
Mhm.
relationships with both the national and the regional plans. I think one of the areas that really differentiates us, and just from a business experience standpoint, Joel, is the pediatric population. What we find a lot is our pediatric patients also have parents that need help as well. So
Mhm.
we're able to kind of bundle that family and make sure that everybody is walking in the same direction.
Yeah.
And it really helps us to coordinate both the children's activities, children and youth, as well as the adults, and get
Okay.
everybody pointed in a new direction. So it helps out.
So it's like trying to make sure that the I guess the first priority, which is the first patient that comes through, they are taken care of. But if you see anything else in the home where it might make sense for the other ones to also have an intervention, then everyone is aligned, walking into the same direction, so that there's no broken expectations, but also they can support each other in the way the same way you guys are supporting them, they can
Yeah.
support each other through that journey too.
And that trust is created around one individual. So we really
Uh-huh.
focus on limiting our turnover in the field.
Okay.
Because I was at a conference a couple weeks ago, and they said that you can use AI to do just about, you can use different AI tools to do a lot in care delivery. You can't have AI create trust. There's still a
Yeah.
40% gap in an AI bot's ability to create trust. And
Uh-huh.
I think that's what's different, is
Yeah.
because, again, we used to say our secret sauce was empathy, but it's I've tried to change that in our culture to be passionate performance. If you're
Uh,
not passionate about helping others and being part of your community, you're probably not going to fit as well as at MedZed, as
uh,
some others. And so we call it passionate performance. We have to deliver care with quality, but it's a whole lot easier when you're happy about what you're doing.
yeah, 1,000,000%. Because if the purpose is there, then the mission can flourish in a much easier way without having to go through every single obstacle and like jumping over these hurdles. Like, no, this is what I want to do, so I don't care
Yeah,
about the rocks and the hurdles and the divots and the creeks or whatever that you gotta cross. So that's pretty awesome. I wanted to ask you as well, when thinking about growth, when thinking about scaling and finding and building that trust with new opportunities, with new health plans, whatever it might be, because as every business, there's the impact that you want to achieve, but there's also the business support and revenue that
yeah,
has to come in to be able to make that happen, right? So one doesn't happen without the other. I've been repeating this quote that I heard quite a quite a while back, but I've been repeating it more frequently in conversations now, which is without vision, the mission perishes, but
okay,
without the money, the vision perishes. So like everything has to
yeah,
supplement each other, right? So when having that lens of looking at your business,
yeah,
let's say you had a magic wand, Brandon, and you could just wave this wand and solve just one thing. I know there is probably a million different priorities, but just one thing that would allow you to solve all your revenue goals, your client acquisition goals, whatever that might be. You wave this wand, one thing gets solved, your goals can happen just like that. What's the one thing you'd like to solve? And without saying funding, because everybody would love more funding and money
yeah.
coming through, something that you can control.
Yeah, and so I would say we're in a different spot. We've kind of regained profitability in our business, so it's less to us about funding.
Uh,
I would love to say that I had a magic wand to just um, find an ever steady flow of really good people that want to make a difference.
uh,
Because we're a heartbeat to heartbeat business, right? I mean, we take 250 heartbeats, we empower them technologically, socially, training, all those types of things, and then they take care of about 7,500.
yeah.
So it's really important to have the right people.
Uh,
I can make up, we as a business can make up for a lot of maybe technology slowness or waiting on innovation, those types of things with the right people. So for me, it's always going to be the right people because that's what makes our
uh,
business.
And given because people grow businesses, not anything else, right? But
Yeah,
given that the right people are in the right seats, everything is working phenomenally internally, which we all know is kind of a dream come true. Is never sunshines and rainbows in, in business, right? Even I was actually speaking with someone that used to be an ex Microsoft employee way back in the day, and even when they were like crushing it, and they still are, but when they first started, everyone's like, "Oh my god, Microsoft is like the best company in the world. That was amazing." And he's like, "Oh man, if you were there internally, it
yeah,
was a mess. It was just fires and fires and fires." But people don't obviously see that. But disregarding that, let's say in a magic world that we were in already for
yeah,
the magic one, people are in the right seat. Everything is working phenomenally. Looking externally now, when it comes to acquiring more business, that
Yeah.
scalability, that predictability side of things, what do you think is the hardest part to keep growing MedZed?
Getting the right folks in the right seat at the table. We're typically a balance, Joel, between a CFO that's very business minded in a health plan, chief medical officer that is very socially driven in a health plan, and making the business case
Mhm.
that goes through. We've got a great team that does our business development, and I think we're having better, more poignant conversations. It's
Mhm.
also some of it is organizing from within our story a little more crisp,
Mhm.
so that we know we do know the impacts we deliver. Um, I'd like to be able to scale that across the organization, and that's where we're spending a lot of our time.
Right.
Well, I would say a lot of our resources, both our time resources and our financial resources, really getting more organized. So it's almost a lift and shift. We
Right.
commit to our customers that we can be up and running, seeing patients 90 days after a wet signature. That's the
Right.
operational rigor that we've put
Right.
in our in our business, and kind of the promise from
Yeah.
ops to development, which sometimes
Mhm.
there's competing priorities there.
Yeah.
But feel confident that we can see a patient within 90 days, post any outstanding regulatory, which we don't typically hit.
That's awesome. And correct me if I'm wrong here, because once that trust gets built, the conversations happen. Then it's about having the predictable opportunities that come through for
Yeah,
the company to grow itself, but also to show that, hey, once we do this, we've done it with many other companies.
right.
90 days, we're going, like, everything is amazing, but keeping that bucket flowing,
Yeah.
that bucket getting filled up so that these opportunities keep coming through, more impact happens and the business grows as a result of it in any case.
And Joe, I would
Uh,
say we're lucky too because we have expansion opportunities in our largest state. Those expansions come around the populations of focus. We're actively talking with the majority of our health plans about picking up their pediatric patients.
mhm.
We're looking at folks that are going through transition of care, so transition out of nursing homes.
Good.
Large swaths of population that I believe allow us to kind of what I call our same store growth. So when
Mhm.
we do that in conjunction with the external growth, I think we'll continue to see, we've done pretty well this year, about 7% month over month growth each month. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in our market.
Good.
And I think we're seen as a top 1 to 2 provider in most of our markets. So we're a trusted resource both from the health plan and from the patient.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Brandon, I have one final question for you here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this. This has been such an insightful talk. And this question is actually not from me. It's a question from our last guest to you, and they had no idea who you were.
Okay.
So here's a question. This is an interesting one. We haven't had this one before.
Yeah.
It's usually everything about business, but this one kind of took a little bit of a different turn. So here it is. What will you do when it all stops? No longer working. What plans do you have for retirement?
Uh, travel and golf, Joao.
Mm.
I really enjoy playing golf. My wife works in the hospitality industry for one of the large hotel players. We love to travel,
Very.
and so that's what retirement looks like for us: is going from trip to trip. We're blessed to live in a great community where our family is and things like that. So we've got a really good base to take off from, but
Yeah.
it will be actively traveling. And um, I don't even know that it's a bucket list, Joelle. I think it's
Yeah.
just being able to deliver, just being able to deliver good times in other places. And we,
Yeah.
and we like to do
Memories.
that together. Yeah.
100%. That's awesome. And it's funny because what the last guest that asked that question, he prefaced it with so many times people that are leaders in businesses,
Yeah.
CEOs, founders, all those things, they often say, okay, I'm going to retire. I'm going to do all these things. And then they do it for like a year and they're like, I need something else to do.
Uh,
So then they go back to it. So he was like, oh, I wonder what the next guest will say about this.
Joelle, my dad was a fairly accomplished business person, and he came out of retirement 4 times
Yeah.
to do different stints. and different things. So I'm well aware of how it can happen.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we provide ourselves a little more balance
Yeah.
with that. But are blessed to have a lot of resources that would allow
Mhm.
us to do that. And it's just something we really enjoy doing.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for this. This has been such an incredible talk. Like I said, very, very insightful. So where should people go if they want to learn a little bit more about yourself or, of course, a little bit more about MedZed?
MyMedZed.com. And that will have all the information on who we are, allows partners in the communities we serve to do direct referrals, as well as tell you a little bit about our history and our leadership team. We've got a really accomplished leadership team that was brought together over the last year to really make a change for MedZed. So we're really happy and excited to be able to share that.
Awesome. Very cool. I will, of course, leave the link down below here for you that are listening. You want to check that out. And if you're still listening to this episode and you want to hear more conversations like this, please hit the subscribe button and I will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for your time, Brennan. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew.